School committee to order Thursday, October 12th, 2023. First item is the statement regarding recording. What's that?
Someone needs to go on mute. Okay. Crystal? I just did. Good evening. This meeting will be recorded and will be posted to YouTube and other social media platforms. By participating in this meeting, you understand that the recording could contain your video stream or your audio stream, including images of yourself or anyone in the room with you. If you choose to enable your video or audio device during the meeting, as well as anything or anyone else that may be in the background, could be Can you all hear us?
Is that okay? Good evening. First, call the meeting to order. Roll call for attendance of school committee members, please.
Dr. Allen?
Here.
Mr. Marsh?
Here.
Mr. Deschamps?
Here.
Mr. Willannon?
Here.
Ms. Kelly? Ms. Kelly? I see her. Ms. Garvey?
Here.
Ms. Cartier?
Here.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Here.
Ms. Cormier?
Here.
Ms. Chafee?
Here.
Mr. Wigler?
Here.
Ms. Thompson?
Here.
Mr. Nutter?
Here.
Mr. Jean-Francois? And Chairman Brophy?
Here.
And Mr. Whitelaw? Sorry about that.
Okay,
There you go. Oh, Nicholas, you can sit right up here at the table with us.
once we vote everything, we'll get to
Okay, my bad, I apologize.
Who's running this meeting?
I know. I was so nervous I forgot him.
That's all right. You're good. It's okay. Colleagues, school committee colleagues, just a couple of pieces out of order. If you support the removal, I need to go to the administrative review report, which will also encompass the unfinished business as the first item. And the second would be the student advisory follow-up with the middle and high school. If there's no objection for any school committee members, I'd like to take that out of order. Okay. And now, hold on. And then just one more personal privilege, if that's no problem with school committee colleagues. We have a moment of silence. A longtime administrator, Mr. Greg Devine's mother died this past week. And we'd like to have a moment of silence because we try to recognize administrators or teachers that have had family members that have died. So a moment of silence for Mr. Devine's mother. Thank you. I know I also talked to the superintendent. I know in the superintendent's report, we're going to probably move up Mr. Devine because I know he has a lot of things going on and planning, and funeral is tomorrow. Mr. Devine?
Tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning. So again, our condolences.
Thank you.
And we wanted to recognize him.
Appreciate that.
So thank you for out of order. I'd like to go to the administrative review report. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Lee Williams.
Thank you. So if you remember last June, we had a discussion at our last meeting last June regarding having a student sit on the school committee as a school committee member. And Mass General Law, Chapter 71, Section 38M allows for that to be done. doesn't set out a lot of rules, et cetera. It sort of throws a paragraph out. We thought there was something to approach, and I think Walter was the one that really was a mover of maybe this is something we should look at. So the subcommittee had a number of meetings, kind of late August, I guess, mid to late August and maybe into September, to discuss the situation. And Mrs. Muha was there, the high school principal was there. And so we sort of batted around a lot of ideas to try and figure out how to approach this. So we finally decided, well, let's go forward with it. And we asked the school principal to maybe sort of come up with some names or a name or some ideas. So she came forward at the subsequent meeting we had and came forward with the names of 2 students. And I guess we kind of never discussed the number of students or how we were going to approach it, but she had 2 very good students who were very interested in doing it. So after a little conversation, we thought, well, why not go with 2 students? So our feeling on this is it's kind of I won't call it an experiment, but it's kind of a first look at how we might want to approach it. 2 students, 1 student, these are both high school students, seniors. There may be a situation down the road if this works, we might want a middle schooler on there. So we're kind of just going to feel our way through that this year. And so we came up with some ideas as to not specifically to say A, B, C, or D, this is the way it's going to go. But our thought was that these 2 students, as the year goes on, it would be up to them. Maybe they would both want to be here the whole time. Maybe they will want a tag team. One come in 1 month, one come in the other month. We'd kind of leave that part up to them. And then, of course, depending on the student schedule and tests, et cetera, we would give them leeway like we have leeway if we have something going on and we can't make a meeting. But it was important for us to point out, we're not bringing these students in to just make presentations, because we do that all the time. Every meeting we have students come in. They're to sit as school committee members. The only difference would be they don't have a vote. But there would be school committee members just like we are. And so, if they have issues or something, they'd use Jess as their contact point to let people know what's going on. So that's kind of where we were at. Let's see if I have anything else here. Once again, it will be an evolving thing, and it will evolve through the year. And maybe I'd ask Purnima just to give a little discourse of how she decided or found these students or what the approach was to get to our 2 students.
Good evening. Thank you so much. Definitely finding students who are interested, and staying the course of the school year is really important. I think to be on a school committee, I want to backtrack and say it's important that our students have a voice in the civics process that we go through every day. I think they're our leaders of tomorrow. They're our decision makers, and they're our future. And as part of an IB school, which we are, the main philosophy of IB is to promote student voice, choice, and agency. And I think to represent more and more schools are turning to student leaders in various forums to represent that student voice. So Nicholas Whitelaw and Isabel Caviello are currently student representatives on the regional and state student council advisories. So they attend periodic meetings at the state and regional levels, and they both share that passion for sort of learning about the civics component of being a student representative and taking that back and making those connections. So they've got a really good grasp of what's going on at the regional and state level. Nick is the chair of the regional council, and Isabel is communications coordinator for the regional council. So very appropriate. I think as seniors, they would fit this role for this school year. So I had reached out to them and said, there's no obligation, but would you be interested in continuing sort of this path? And both seemed extremely excited. I actually asked them to talk to their parents first, although as seniors, and they said, I promise you it's going to be a yes. I said, I'm going to give you the day to think about it. And they came back really excited the next morning and said, we're completely in. We're not going to be stressed out in the school year. We hope to participate and be an active member. So I think their excitement, along with their journey as student reps at the regional and state level, make them a perfect fit for school committee members. So I'm really excited to welcome them, and hopefully you'll embrace this idea.
Thanks. Thanks, Pranima. We have two students. One couldn't make it today. Isabel could not make it today, but Nicholas is here. So maybe Nicholas, if you just give us a little bit about yourself. I mean, you've presented to us before.
So I know everybody in the committee has seen me up here before, presented at the end of the year for Student Advisory Council. I am also involved in other clubs in Quabbin, like Link Crew, National Honor Society, and Student Council, although not this year because Student Council was reconfigured to involve more students in it. But I have been part of the Student Advisory Council for the past 3 years, and I have worked with the Department of Education. I have met with many advisors from the Department of Education, and I do know what it is that like a group of students can get done when they all are really passionate about something.
Thank you. So based on all that, or with that as a background, I'd like to make a motion that for the school year 2023 through 2024, the school committee accept Nicholas and Isabella Coriello as student representatives on the Quabbin Regional School Committee. The students will attend in a non-voting capacity, but will retain all the other rights and duties of the elected school committee members.
Second.
Any further discussion and comments for school committee members? Any questions, comments, concerns?
Great idea.
Seeing and hearing none?
Dr. Rapp?
Walter?
Well, I think they also will not be permitted to be participating in executive sessions.
Correct. Or, well, you're absolutely right. That would have to be
An exclusion.
exclusion.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? A roll call for the motion.
Dr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps?
Yes.
Sorry, Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Lannon?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Garvey? Yes. Ms. Cartier?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cormier?
Yes.
Ms. Chafee?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Excuse me, yes.
And Chairman Brophy.
Yes.
And Mr. Lannon, may I have a copy of that motion, please? Wasn't able to write it down fast enough.
And I wrote it. You can't read it because I couldn't. But yeah, I'll rewrite it for you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Mr. Whitelaw, welcome. Come on up and
think he has
join
a
us at the
packet,
table.
right?
He's got a packet.
Yeah.
And we'll
Nameplate.
have a sign. We should have a sign.
He has one.
Nick, your packet and your nameplate are right next to you.
And again, I just wanted to welcome, and I'll just say a couple of words and see if anybody else has anything to say. As you're involved, not only involved in the student council, Pranima mentioned not only the student council, we've been lucky enough over this for many years that we've hear from students, high school, middle, elementary. That's been our student council kind of perspective. With Walter's perspective and looking further, we wanted to go a little what the options are legally. We are welcoming and absolutely would like your participation. So when we are deliberating, and you may see this process and you're involved in the state level, so you kind of see the procedures, the motions, those type of things. Please feel free to comment if and when you want to. You don't have to. There are some members here that may talk more than others. So feel free, and we'd like to hear from the student body and not only present, but also participate, as Mr. Willan mentioned. So my comment is not only the role model perspective, the leadership perspective that you bring, are you AIB too?
No,
Are you AP?
I do take AP and IB classes.
Beautiful. So again, from the history of this committee of believing all boats can rise, that students can have opportunities. And we needed to continue to do that. At the same time, for us in policymaking areas and in curriculum enhancement and further, also the social emotional piece as we talk about, or I go better with that, mental health, social health of what is, because it's not just the academic, it is all of us, of the whole student, the whole child. So that's where my comment. I just want to say welcome. I look forward to the participation, and I'm glad that this committee is looking to bring that perspective of the student council on the committee.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Who speaks more than others?
Some of us do, and I'm probably already a little red, and I apologize. But there, Dr. Allen.
Yeah, speaking about who speaks with. Anyway, I assume we still will have student council presentations
Yes,
as well as having him on the school committee.
correct, Superintendent?
Yes, we have some tonight.
Anyone else? Okay. Welcome, and we'll see you on Thursday nights, and we may have some other meetings or whatever's going on. Also, feel free, and I know Lee has given you an orientation. If you'd like to even get a little further and take a look at some subcommittees, not that you're a student first, we get it. But if there's stuff that you are interested in, learning more, want to hear more, no problem. Okay.
Mark?
And also, our meetings are recorded now, so if you miss something and you're interested to hear what was said, you can. In your free time. If
Fantastic.
you have any.
Okay, so next item is approval of minutes. At our place, in our Dropbox, we had the executive session minutes of June 20th. We'll take that first. Thursday, June 20th, the executive session to be brought out and to be made public. Is there a motion to approve?
Sure.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, okay, that was Dave. Any potential corrections? Omissions? Or any deletions? Seeing and hearing none? Roll call.
Dr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps?
Yes.
Mr. Lynn?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Ms. Cartier?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cormier?
Yes.
Ms. Chafee?
Yes.
Mr. Wigler?
Yes.
Ms. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
Chairman Brophy?
Yes. And we have approval of minutes of our last meeting, September 14th, 2023. Is there a motion?
Second.
And second, and Lee. Any potential? Dr. Allen?
Yeah, I found something that I didn't understand. I talked to Jess about it and it's cleared up. The superintendent's report, the third bullet in where she talks about 2,133 kids or whatever it is,
Yep.
east,
Instead of seats.
and it means seats.
Oh.
East.
It's all fixed. I uploaded it.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I talked to Jess before the meeting too. It's
Take
just,
care of
when
that,
I read
Tom.
it, I read it.
There you go.
Okay, the potential could be an omission. Number 7, school committee concerns. It would, the second bullet says Dr. Allen would like to see.
Okay, guess I'll have to go back to my notes and add that in for next time. We can correct the minutes at the next meeting.
Okay, so we have Dr. Allen would like to see. Do you see that?
Something.
So we don't know what that is. So why don't we, like you said, you want to
Yeah.
poll?
I just do this to make sure you all read the minutes.
And I saw this today, but I didn't call you, and I apologize. Guilty, I'm red on that one.
I am red too, so don't feel bad.
All right, so we'll hold then, we'll hold on this one.
You want to move to your students?
And then we'll go over to the superintendent for the student advisory on the middle and high school report.
Sure. So Principal DeMarias is going to introduce our middle school students, who I know are really excited to be here because I saw them high-fiving each other earlier. So she's going to introduce them, and they're going to share with us some insights. What's going on first?
Hello, everyone. Before I introduce the students, I just wanted to send everybody an invite for this Saturday. If you are available to join us in our fall bazaar, it's a great community event. All of our sophomores have worked really hard to put that together. You'll see face painting, pumpkin pies. I have lots of fun activities, a bake out. So just a really great way of coming together. And guess what? There is no rain from 9 to 3 so far. So we're going to hope that stays, and we would love for your presence and your support. So that's this Saturday. I am really excited to introduce our middle schoolers. Representing grade 6, we have Eliza Brown, who I believe is there personally, and Jillian Rigney, grade 7. They're both going to share a few slides they've put together, which I believe Ms. Bennett will be displaying. And they're letting you know of some of the exciting things that have gone on at the 6th and 7th grade level and things they are looking forward to in the upcoming weeks. So Eliza and Jillian, we welcome you tonight.
Who's going first?
Eliza, you go first.
Okay.
Sixth grade.
Okay. Well, okay. So some of the things that I'm looking forward to at Quabbin is the musical, first of all. I'm really big in theater, and I forgot English. I'm really looking forward to performing in front of my classmates and teachers, as well as the administrators of the school. Please come to Matilda. I'm also looking forward to band and chorus to show people what we've been working on during our flex block. It's gonna be good. Next week is our concert for band.
Not your mom, kid.
It is.
Yes, it is. 18th, yeah.
Okay. Another thing that I'm looking forward to, and I am happy about, is social studies. It's really cool learning about how humans evolved, and we learned how right now, well, we were learning about how the body evolved and how they made tools, and right now we're learning why it evolved and why their brains got bigger or why their legs got longer and such. And finally, I am looking forward to the lunches at Quabbin because a lot of my friends were like, "Oh, the portions are so small at school on Ruggles Lane," and they're really happy with what it is. I'm really happy. One of my friends even told me it totally replaces recess. So.
Replaces recess?
Yeah.
That's a strong statement.
That's gotta be a quote somewhere. That's a
Writing it
quote.
down.
That's a quote.
I can. Yes, I can.
I have a question.
Uh-oh.
Got a question.
Got a question?
Oh. Yes.
Eliza, when are the band and chorus concerts?
Next,
Pull it up the calendar.
So
18th, I think it's 17th.
So we have the high school concert on the 18th at 7 p.m. and the middle school concert on the 19th at 7 p.m.
What days are those?
Wednesday, Thursday.
Thursday.
I believe Wednesday and Thursday.
High school Wednesday, middle school Thursday. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jillian Rigney. I'm in 7th grade and I've been in the Quabbin Regional School District since kindergarten. I've been running cross country for 2 years and I have been playing the trumpet for 4 years. The beginning of 7th grade has been great. I've already learned so many new skills in science, math, social studies, and band. In math, I've learned how to find an area of a circle. In science, I've learned how to use a microscope, and we looked at cells that we swapped from our cheeks. Pretty interesting. In social studies, we have learned about Mesopotamia, and in band, we have learned how to play triplets, and just any new piece of music is just a new learning experience. And then I'm looking forward to the performances we will be doing in band. Learning all the new pieces of music and getting to perform is one of my favorite things of the school year. And then I'm also looking forward to our Boston field trip at the end of the year. And right now we're doing a fundraiser to fundraise the money for our field trip. And we are going to be trusted with like our money, our safety, and responsibility. And I'm also very excited to see how I've grown as a student and as a person by the end of the year.
Fantastic.
Great.
Any questions for Jillian?
Last one. Jillian, is Mesopotamia, does it still have the same nickname as when I had it at your age in school? Cradle
Phone a friend.
of
That's a great question.
Cradle of Civilization? Cradle of Civilization? Doesn't ring a bell, huh?
No.
I guess it's not. I know.
Quick question for both of you. Flex block. How is it going? What's happening with it? What are you valuing from it? Or is there anything that we should change or not change?
The first flex block, we're in band, so we don't really know.
Okay, good, you're in band, okay.
So the second flex block I think is really helpful, so we can kind of like collect all our things, and it kind of gives us an opportunity to like go to our lockers and go to the bathroom before we have to go, and kind of fill up our water bottles maybe, and it lets us like put up our chairs, so it's just easier to get out. It's
Okay,
get out faster.
Yeah, and then the first flex block of the day is about 35 minutes, I think. So we have that time to practice band. And then with the SEL lessons, social emotional learning, Wednesday, like every other Wednesday or a few Wednesdays a month, if we like finish up fast, we can go to band and practice more, which makes it helpful that we're in like our band or orchestra or chorus, we're in that room during Wednesday, so we can go from like SEL to practicing what we need to practice for either band, orchestra, or chorus. And then the flex at the end of the day, it's helpful because like I know sometimes if I have like an assignment that I need to finish up at the end of the day, I have that 10-minute time where I can like work on things, check what I need to check, and like get myself situated for like the next day, it's very helpful.
thank you. Anyone else? School committee members? One last question, signage. We heard that one of the projects was to upgrade the signage at the middle and high school. Has that come to fruition yet? Are we in the process of it still?
Yeah, it's not posted yet.
Okay. So you can't
Something to look forward to.
look forward to it, and maybe you can come back and answer that question maybe in the spring if you'd like. Well, it's an open invitation if you'd like. And I just also want to say, thank you for presenting. You did a fine job. I know public speaking can be very nervous. You didn't even bat an eye. You did very well, both of you. So I do want to say thank you. Okay, nothing.
Tell them they don't have to stay.
Okay, you're more than welcome to stay. Lastly, is there anything else that you want to ask us? Is there anything that you need to ask us? Not to put you on the spot, I apologize, but if there's anything that you want to ask us, feel free. All set?
Yeah.
All right, have a good evening, and you're more than welcome to stay if you'd like, but if not, have a good evening and see you in the spring.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, the superintendent's report.
We
Elementary?
don't have elementary
Yeah.
tonight. I'm going to do some of our reports out of order. I'm going to ask Mr. Devine, our Director of Guidance and External Partnerships, to go first.
Thank you.
So he can do his section first.
Over the course of the past 30 years, the school district has been involved with what has become known as work-based learning. And over the course of the past couple of years, I've been responsible for helping to facilitate that in a lot of different ways, and I don't do any of that by myself. There's a lot of resources that are out there for work-based learning, and work-based learning is something that really helps our kids to transition into what we would call the real world. And as a result of that, I asked two gentlemen to be here tonight to talk to you about how there are outside resources that we've utilized to support work-based learning by our students. One is Howie Latender from FlexCon, who FlexCon, as you know, hosted a number of our students this past summer in an internship. And we've had a number of experiences with FlexCon over the course of the past few years. And I've also asked Anthony Wilson from Mass Hire, who's a huge support to us as far as work-based learning. And I've asked them to kind of come and speak to you a little bit about their experiences with Quabbin and how they can be resources for Quabbin. I'll ask Howie to kind of go first.
Hey, good evening, everyone. As he said, my name is Howie Latown. I am a Community Engagement Director at FlexCon Company in Spencer. I've been with FlexCon for 45 years. I know what you're thinking, how is that even possible? When we look 50. But it's been a great ride. I've been there. I spent most of my career in manufacturing. And a couple of years ago, they felt there was a need to create a position of community engagement. And I graciously accepted the position, and I've been having a great time with it ever since. So I really have a two-pronged responsibility. Number one is to engage with students and let them know about careers in manufacturing, kind of dispel some of the fears that I think some students have. So I've done a multitude of career fairs. I've been to over 51 schools in Central Mass so far. I've engaged with about 1,900 students. I've gone to their classroom. I've given them demonstrations about, what happens in the manufacturing sector. Talked about jobs, talked about career lattice, advancement, tuition reimbursement, the whole gamut. And really, we created the position not to be self-serving. So it wasn't made to be a pipeline to open jobs to FlexCon. It's really been a very general discussion to educate them about manufacturing in general. And so no matter where they go, to try to put a little something in their toolbox. We actually did an exercise with David Prouty where we met with some students. We actually did some mock interviews. We taught them how to create LinkedIn accounts. We did some resume writing with them. We had people from our statistical process control meet with the students and do a couple of fun statistic exercises. Had people from safety environmental go and talk to them about safe work practices and PPE and those sort of things, just things that they're probably not learning a whole lot about in a classroom. But this is just really supplemental information, which kind of helps them develop skills more. And, as far as the students that we had this summer from Quabbin, we did have a shadow day program, which preceded that, which I believe 4 students from Quabbin came for the day. We partnered them with a department head They spent the day, we had lunch with them, we had a little celebration at the end of the day. And I got 4 more of those planned this year, so we're gonna replicate that again. The internship program, we really took that seriously. We had department heads within the company have to apply for an intern. They had to come up with a viable project. And they had to tell us what the results of that project needed to be. And then we did interviews with students from Quabbin. We went through the hiring, interviewing process. We matched their skills and competencies and some of the desires that they really wanted to do and tried to match them up with someone within the company that would help give them that experience. And I can tell you, we treated them exactly like we would treat a brand new hire. We went through a program we call Yes to Success. We went through all safety module trainings. We had a nice lunch and learn on their first day. And then they were given their own personal office. They were given a laptop. They were given a phone. So probably the first couple of hours were taking selfies and office, but they were treated like every other employee. And I can tell you, the school committee and this school should take immense pride in those students because they just exceeded our expectations. They really took it extremely seriously. They really wanted to accomplish big things. And I can tell you, every single one of those students is going places because they just felt like they were there forever. They'd come through the door. They were just so happy, so eager to get involved. And instead of just kind of limited it to one job, we made sure they got to see the whole company, to see the inner workings. They made some real great connections with people. We still get emails from some of them. Hunter LeBear was just a couple offices away from me. Every morning I had to drop him off a granola bar. He would be waiting. If I missed, he'd let me know. 3 weeks after he left, I took the liberty of mailing him one. And he knew exactly where it came from. But it was such a successful program that, we can't wait to do it again. And I know there's a plethora of other schools out there that want a piece of it and they'd like to be involved. And that's one of the things Anthony will probably talk about. But we really have a place in our heart for Quabbin students. We want to make sure they're included again. And, after that program commenced and it was done, we had a celebration at the Woo Sox game. FlexCon is a corporate sponsor of the Woo Sox. We have a section out there called the FlexCon Landing. So we had the whole place to ourselves. The students were there, except for 2. Luke and Adam couldn't show up because they were busy playing football and beating up on my old alma mater, David Fry, for 3 touchdowns that night. But the rest of the students showed up. We had a great time. We invited their parents. Anthony was there. Mrs. Devine was there. So it was a really great celebration and a great day. So whatever you guys are doing, whatever in the water out here, tap it and bottle it because they're just great kids. Great kids.
Thanks, Howard.
I feel like a proud parent.
I know, huh?
And this is Anthony Wilson from Mass Hire, who was, again, very instrumental in terms of supporting our work-based learning programming.
So my name is Anthony Wilson. I'm program coordinator for Mass Hire. There's 16 different Mass Hire locations throughout the state, and we are kind of like the state's arm for workforce development. My focus is on developing high school students and partnering with our local high schools and developing work-based learning plans, career readiness, experiences, different exposures, different internship opportunities. And I will say this, I work with 15 different high schools, and Greg knows I don't just say it because he's here. I brag on Quabbin all the time as I go meet with our other partner schools. I meet with every of our partner school superintendent and their principal and other administrators that are going to be on the ground doing the work. And the work that Greg's team has been able to put together is truly amazing. In fact, we're having an event the 27th, and they're going to be a part of our panel talking about sharing with the other schools how Quabbin has been able to build an employer advisory board, and also kind of hearing some of the partnerships between, FlexCon and Quabbin. And I think if other schools in our region, they need to see type of community involvement that takes place, because students that are exposed, to work opportunities, they become engaged in the process. And from a person who's watched the process, it's really amazing. Speaking of the FlexCon Quabbin partnership, so my office, we fund internships. And so we were able to help pay for 8 students at FlexCon this summer for their internships, and how we said, hey, they'd take the students on even if we didn't pay them. That's truly a great partner. We also were able to help fund some program called High School Senior Educational Internship Program, and that was able to hire interns during the summer here to work, high school students to work with their middle school and elementary school students. We also were able to help fund IT opportunities in district for students. And so it was great being able to collect all data, put it into the database, and Department of Secondary Education, they are they'll go through all the data, and just really, it's really impressive stuff what your school's been able to do. We also help with work-based learning plans. So work-based learning plans is a program that's been going on around every year throughout the Commonwealth. A little over 5,000 students participate in work-based learning plans. And so that's a way for students to earn credits while they're working. The different schools use it differently. So Quabbin can use it the way in which they want, but it's putting students into a database, and it's turning a work experience into work-based learning experience. And Greg's team has jumped on board with a desire to implement that and to use this tool in the school. I'm trying to think. I've also been able to see some other workshops. Was it Pine Shore or
Pine Acres?
Pine Acres. I apologize to any.
You actually participated in
that. I did participate in it, but it was amazing getting to see students do like little mock interviews, create something, do a little sales pitch. I've also helped participate in a thing called a Mass Tech Mashup, and so that's also held at Polar Park. Quabbin was able to participate again this year. I think last year they took home one of these little paper airplane prizes for they were able to make an assembly line better and faster than the other schools. Goodness gracious, I can go on and talk about how Quabbin is, and I'm saying this because I brag on this school to other partner schools. And I say, if you're looking to have engaging your students in work-based learning, or engaging your students in career readiness activities, look to Quabbin. They have a great team. They've put a lot of resources to career readiness activities, and other schools in this area can learn from what's going on here at this school. And hopefully the other schools can get great employer partners like FlexCon to be a part of the fabric of their school.
Fantastic.
If I could just add on the work-based learning, right now, since the last time we met, we've added a number of interns. In the past, what we've done with the interns is they've had to write kind of report at the end of the internship, explaining how they met learner expectations and those types of things. Rather than going that route this year, as we move forward, we're using the actual state work-based learning plan, and our students are going to utilize that for assessment in the internship opportunities that they have. Right now, we roughly have 25 students that are out there that we're going to enter into that database that Anthony mentioned, that will have a work-based learning plan specifically for them, including the post-grad students will also have work-based learning plans, which Ashley Roy has worked on that a little bit in the past, but we'll formalize that a little bit more as the year goes on.
That's a real good segue into something I wanted to just leave with you too. One of the things that we asked students to do when they were done with their internship at FlexCon, we asked them to put together a PowerPoint presentation. And the first part of it was a little bit about themselves, their personal life, their personal history, personal aspirations. Then we asked them to state what was the position that they applied for and got. what was the objective that they had to accomplish? How far did they get on their objectives? What skills did they learn and take away? And then finally, is there anybody they wanted to thank? So I brought 4 of those PowerPoint presentations here that I'll leave with you that you can look at your leisure. It's some phenomenal stuff in here. You wouldn't believe that this is the work of a high school student. It's just really good stuff. And then there's just one photo of all of them on day number 1. And then their offices that they were so proud of. And then the Woo Sox game, and that's not a doctored picture. That's actually the sky.
The sunset was.
It was amazing.
Ridiculous.
Well, we had such a good time. And like I said, certainly hope we can replicate the whole experience again this year. So I don't know, where you'd like the PowerPoints if you want to.
Yeah, they could.
Those are yours to keep. You can have them.
We talk a lot longer about the great stuff, but.
No, good to hear.
My comments are from the other side. At our meeting review and reform last week, Luke Salvador and Hunter Labier presented on their experience there. Now, you didn't tell us about this candy bar you were giving them.
Granola.
Okay, but they were very excited about what they had done and what they learned and the whole experience. They said they gained confidence, communication and problem solving, experience in the work environment. And when you think about our innovative pathways, which is sort of what Anthony was talking about, I believe, and this is real. And this is happening, and it's our kids. And when we were going over MCAS results, we said, fine, but this is the kind of stuff that our school district really values and feels is important, getting kids ready out there for the world. And it just was so exciting. They talked about this plus minus. And apparently in problem solving, they talk about what are the pluses and what are the minuses. And how do you make the pluses stronger and the minuses weaker? And apparently that's something that you folks do. And they were very excited about. Yeah.
We have a group called Beta, and they try to transform the company. And actually, that's another event that we actually had Quabbin involved in. We do things that we call blitzes. And it's just a 2 or 3 day event where we try to problem solve. And when we're doing that, we take a look at, map out what the current state of the problem is, the process. And we have things that we call happy clouds, which are the good things. And then we have angry clouds, which aren't so good. And that's where we get our pluses and our deltas from. Where can we make improvements? What can we do immediately? What can we do longer term? And how do we gain results and help solve problems? So we had a group of Quabbin educators just a couple of months ago come to FlexCon and participate in one of those groups. So I think.
Reminded me of my freshman psych course in 1961. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. Sort of seemed like an updated model of that. So this was just a great experience. $1,500, is that what they got?
Yep.
Well, he was sort of skirting around what the money was. But
Yeah.
we had that in our presentation. And the kids were very proud of the fact that they had worked in a real situation and they made some money doing it.
Yeah, it was invaluable, their experiences and.
Oh, I think so.
What they talked about, yeah.
I think so. And this is the sort of thing that we stand for as a committee, as a district, as administrators. It's not just the reading, writing, arithmetic, but getting kids ready for the world, for work, for college, for whatever it is, moving on. And I think as a committee, we want to thank both of you for helping with our kids, for providing this wonderful experience, and that it works so well. I think for both parties.
Any other comments, school committee members? Howie and Anthony, thank you. Yes.
I will say this is a great opportunity for students because we all know that students aren't going to be in a classroom the entirety of their lives. And opportunities like this for students are really great, especially for all the kinds of students we have that may not be going to college after high school. Because there are a fair amount of students who you ask them, oh, are you going to college? And they say, well, I don't really want to go to college. And they're like, oh, I'll probably just go and get a job somewhere. And skills like these, knowing how to do an interview, knowing how to present themselves to get a job, and all skills like that are really nice. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Actually, to kind of talk about what you said in our presentation, it gave them practical use of the things they're learning in the classroom. So, you know, it really made a good connection for them to see, you know, this is valuable information that they are making me learn and study and do, and applied it in real world setting. And, you know, I mean, they think they have problem solving and all these skills, but, you know, Luke had said last week, we met, you know, you can't run to your boss and ask him every question, you know, you need to think on your feet and make decisions. So, I mean, they couldn't go on enough about the experiences, and we're just so grateful to have this partnership with you and allow the students to have these opportunities, because it really is something that we could never give them without that. So thank you.
Have these in the mail out next month?
In the mail out?
Can we have copies of them, is what he's asking.
In your packet next
Yes.
month? Sure,
Yes,
of
yes.
course. Yep.
Again, anyone else?
I just want to take a
Yes.
minute. So we're 5 years into Innovation Pathways, as you guys know. And Anthony has been with us the whole entire way. So I just want to thank him for that. Also, Therese Salvador, Greg, none of this is happening without them. But our numbers are increasing, and we're super excited about that. Also, one thing I really want to recognize is last year we had more students interested in doing intern opportunities than we could pay or take on. So as our numbers grow and we're working through our partnership meetings and things like that, you know, that's something that's at the forefront of our mind. How are we going to get good, real, authentic experiences for our students and get them out there to be doing this work? And I just can't thank you enough for doing that and helping us grow this program, because you really have been a critical part of that. And Howie, I just want to tell you that the students, I think two things that stood out to me were personal references to your employees, that they felt like they had become a part of your community. And I just can't express how meaningful that was to them. And another thing that the students shared was feeling so proud of another student that they worked with that took on the internship with them, that lacked in confidence when they started in your program, but they saw that student gain that confidence by the end. And the fact that they were recognizing that and celebrating that told us a lot about the culture of your business. So again, thank you so much for everything you've done, and we really look forward to the continued partnership.
Absolutely. It was really our pleasure.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Again, I want to say thank you very much. Thank you for the partnership. It's going to grow. And Mr. Devine mentioned it, the work-based learning plans is something that will continue to be developing and increasing.
Yep. And actually, when you mentioned Innovation Pathways, right now we have 25 students in internships. But the juniors that are in Innovation Pathways this year will need to do a 100-hour internship at the end of the junior year in the summer or into their senior year. And we have 50 students that will need a 100-hour internship the next year.
Fantastic.
So the more opportunities we can develop for them, the better. And this is really a kind of a start for the structure to that. So thank you, gentlemen, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Greg, thank you for being here. All the best to you.
Pleasure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.
You too.
Whatever you want, yep.
Since I know the superintendent, we're in the superintendent's report, and you took Mr. Devine out of order, and then while we have new business, rather than waiting until the end of our, and then we can get on to other business, under new business, it's okay with the superintendent and with the school committee members. We have the seat chair that wanted to introduce herself to the school committee and give us a quick comment, and I think that would be a nice thing if we could just do that out of order. Thank you. Turn to the superintendent.
Sure. So I'd like to introduce our CPAC chair, who has really started the year kind of hitting the ground running. And Stephanie, I hope I get your last name correct, but it's Uguccione, I believe is how you say it.
Yeah.
So welcome. And she just came out of one of our subcommittees because she was at our student services subcommittee before this.
Yes, thank you so much. I live in Hubbardston. I have 2 kiddos in the SOAR program at Ruggles. It is my first year as chair, but obviously not new to the special education world. My oldest is 9 and my youngest is 8. We're really trying to increase participation with the CPAC. We don't see a ton of participation from families. We're really hoping with a lot of our presentations that we can change that. We had Quinsigamond College speak last night about what it looks like for a high school student on an IEP to transfer to college. And that was super interesting. And they were great last night at the presentation. And we have mock in January, Q drug in February. And we're really trying to get the whole community to kind of know who we are and be a resource for parents. Definitely.
Again, welcome and thank you for taking the leadership on that and being part of that. And over the years, with CPAC too, we do like updates as well from the superintendent. Yes, it is advisory, but you are on the ground and working the community and the parent piece and the social piece and the school piece together. So it is a partnership. And so I want to just emphasize that although we have teachers, administrators, and staff and school committees, we do truly appreciate CPAC, the advisory, and anything that else also through the special education subcommittee as well to keep us fully informed to make sure not only are we in compliance, we have our director of student services, and we're also working on what is best for kids to articulate that and follow through appropriately. At the same time, I think I'm very, we need to be continuously, and Mr. Devine has done a great job with transition 688 and the follow through on that for students over 18 to 22 with that particular access. So I just want to say thank you for your leadership, and I'd like you to, keep us informed through the subcommittee, as well as even maybe in the spring, come back and bring us anything that we need to be aware of and be able to follow through on.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, committee, for that. Back to the superintendent.
Okay, so tonight I'm going to present my goals to the school committee. And before I start, I just want to kind of tell you where my mind was at, perhaps. So I started with the strategic plan and looking at the strategic plan. I also based some of my choices off of what I heard from the school committee as we went through the process of superintendent, looking for a new superintendent. So I felt like I wanted to address the needs that you had identified and also address the needs that had really helped us write our strategic plan. So my first goal is going to be around communication. And I've set my goals as a 1-year goal, but I'll talk a little bit about that when I get to my third goal. So it's about increasing the frequency and the methods of positive and proactive communication. And I'm looking for results of 70% of our stakeholders, that is students, staff, parents, community members, reporting an increased sense of satisfaction with the overall learning and academic achievement at Quabbin, with a focus on on targeting hard-to-reach populations. So when we did this survey, and we've done some student surveys, we have certain categories that are clearly don't have the same sense of satisfaction. So our elementary students sort of report at higher levels of satisfaction than our high school students. On our stakeholder survey that went out to community members and families, 46% of our stakeholders agreed, this was administered last June, I believe, that they were satisfied with the overall learning and achievement, but 26% reported they didn't have enough information. That told me that a good goal would be to start celebrating and recognizing the good, strong work that we do. So some of the action steps that I have are outlined below around celebrating our students and staff. I've begun already implementing our district-wide monthly newsletter that goes to our select boards, our council on aging, even some of our boards of health have asked for it. We're working on an updated website. I think our technology subcommittee saw that tonight, with connected social media feeds. So anything we post on social media, we'll keep tracking across our website. I've been working on submitting articles to local newspapers because I know that has been something the committee has been asking about. I did a little research, and once in a while they do allow people to have a section that's called like From the Desk of. So it could be called From the Desk of Superintendent Muha. So I'm seeing if that's a possibility. Also, to increase communication with select boards, our senior citizens, more opportunities for parent and community partnerships, and translating all of our materials so that as our demographics are changing, all of our stakeholders can access them. And I have 2 measures identified around surveys: student and staff feedback surveys that we administer, and stakeholder feedback surveys. I have a baseline on those already, so it will make this goal measurable. Do you want me to just keep going through all 3 goals, or do you want me to stop and pause in between?
I think we could hear all 3 and then go back.
Okay. So the second goal, so that first goal is aligned with strategic objective number 1 in our strategic plan. The next goal is aligned with strategic objective 3, and this is, we talked about offering differentiated opportunities for professional learning for our staff. And my goal is by May of 2024 to engage 5% of our current Quabbin educators in a cohort to provide opportunities and experiences that deepen their inclusive instructional leadership knowledge, skills, and capacity to strengthen our pipeline. So unlike Howie and how he said, you know, they weren't necessarily looking to grow their own personal pipeline, I believe that our staff members, our teachers, our educators, many of them are seeking more leadership roles. I want to provide them with that training and also build on opportunities for them to become leaders right here in our district so that we retain them and they feel more fulfilled in their work. So I've already started the process. I wrote a grant for funding. I've sent out a survey of interest. We have 20 educators, which is more than I had anticipated. And so our next step is going to be to implement a candidate review process to ensure strong programming. So we're going to do a cohort model. I think we want to make it small, intimate, and manageable so that people are getting the most out of the experience. We would have our first kickoff session in November. They would be having required monthly meetings and work in between. One thing that we will do is implement an equity audit that will help launch some of the work. So that's aligned with our strategic plan as well. And I want to provide them with the opportunity to actually have a practical experience for 150 hours this year. That'd be a lot this week. And then we will evaluate the program at the end of the year because I plan to make this a continuous program, not a one and done type of situation. In order for for educators to become certified as administrators, they need a 300-hour practicum. So I'm suggesting we would spread this out for some folks for 300 hours. And some of the measures that I'm identifying are the number of participants who complete the program, our program evaluation, and also outcome measures. So as they take on projects, we will use those completed projects as a measure of success of the program. My third goal, and this comes from my mentor that I called and said, I think I'm overthinking my goals. And she said, well, your first goal should be to learn the job. And I said, wow, you're really right about that. So I thought I better put that in there. So it's to increase my knowledge and understanding of the responsibilities, laws, budget processes, and regulations regarding, in particular, the role of a regional superintendent of schools in order to gain confidence, independence, efficiency, and effectiveness. So I've identified some action steps there. And what I want to say about this is when I was hired and we entered our agreement, it is an agreement that stands that as long as you are happy with me and I am happy in the position, right? And I don't want to put Quabbin in a position that if I am not learning at the rate and pace that I need to be, that we're behind the 8 ball and seeking another superintendent. So as part of this third goal and all of my goals, I'm going to ask that we have sort of quarterly check-ins, or maybe in December for our first one. But so that I can get your feedback and you can know with transparency what I'm working on and hopefully accomplishing. So that if you decide that this isn't the right fit for Quabbin in the future, I don't want us to be looking for a superintendent late in the game. I want us to be ready to do that. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
And Cheryl will appreciate my skill building, so I don't have to ask her 100 questions, but.
Not like I don't ask 100.
It's a mutual relationship. So any questions on those goals?
Some of the action things you.
So the action steps are, to start with a self-assessment.
Yep.
Where I'm at. I have a Mars mentor currently that I'm working with to attend superintendent conferences and trainings, especially that are related to regional school districts, which includes the Mars sessions, to seek out expert knowledge and support in my areas for growth. And, perhaps observations of others' practices, learning from others firsthand, being a part of that, and utilize different resources that are provided by DESE and others around checklists and different things like that, and attend any of the DESE-sponsored events, and just be really active in that so that I can learn the right things.
And you have, because you've been doing this since June, July. And you mentioned I'd like to share those goals in the fall. So when you mentioned them to me, also, you've been doing this since July. So even though we're hearing, Colleen wanted to present, the superintendent wanted to present it to us in the fall. She followed through on that. And would you do me a favor? It's just, can you say the 3 goals again? Just repeat them, 1, 2, and 3.
Sure. The first one is around communication. So increase the frequency and methods of positive and proactive communication that will result in 70% of stakeholders reporting an increased sense of satisfaction with the overall learning and academic achievement at Quabbin Regional School District, with a focus on targeting hard-to-reach populations. The second one is engage 5% of our current Quabbin educators in a cohort to provide opportunities and experiences that deepen their inclusive instructional leadership, knowledge, skills, and capacity to strengthen our pipeline. And the third one is increase my knowledge and understanding of the responsibilities, laws, budgets, processes, and regulations regarding the role of a regional superintendent of schools in order to gain confidence, independence, efficiency, and effectiveness.
Dr. Allen?
Yeah, who was the mentor?
Sheila.
Dr. Muir?
I've heard of her.
Is there a motion to accept the 3 goals of the superintendent?
So moved.
So moved. And the second, Lee, seconded, Dr. Allen. Any further discussion on school committee members regarding the superintendent's goals?
Can I just ask maybe a dumb question?
No, there's no such thing.
Great. What is MARS?
Massachusetts Association of Regional Schools. Sorry,
Okay.
I should have,
Okay, no,
I actually thought about putting that in parentheses. Not a dumb
totally
question
fine.
at all.
I
Yeah.
kind of guessed it, but I was like, I just want to make sure that that's what we're talking about. Okay.
It's headed by Maureen.
Happens to be Maureen, Dr. Marshall. Maureen Marshall is the director of Mars for the past, what, 3 years? Maybe 2-3 years?
At least.
About 3 years.
Yeah, more than that, I think.
Yeah. So I just want to say, I really appreciate that second goal that you have of, providing that opportunity to your current educators to further themselves as leaders, because that is not something that a lot of districts are willing to do. And they pay the price when people leave the district to pursue those other opportunities of leadership. So I think what you're doing is wonderful in that regard. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Dr. Allen?
Following up on that, going back in historical archives of our committee, we had an unwritten rule. Tie goes to the local. It had to be at least a tie. But we wanted to have our local people know that they had a chance to move on and move up. I'm glad you said something about
Yeah,
that.
and I think that's obvious in the way the district is run, in the way our students are learning, going out into the community. I mean, that's all a reflection on that continuity. It's important. I mean, when you have these turnovers year after year after year, a revolving door of new admin, new administrators, new policies, it has that trickle down effect. And so, Quabbin's doing it right when it comes to that. And we see that right down to the students who are out in the community working at a place like FlexCon, so it's fantastic.
It's not the traditional 3-year and out, it's happening in
Exactly.
places.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyone else? Seeing and hearing none, can we have a roll call for acceptance of the superintendent's goals?
Dr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps?
Yes.
Mr. Williamson?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Ms. Cartier?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cormier?
Yes.
Ms. Chafee?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler?
Yes.
Ms. Thompson? Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
I'm all confused because I have a new spreadsheet.
So I just had a couple things of note. Principal DeMarias talked to you about the Fall Bazaar, and Luke had presented that, I think, last month as well. So that is happening Saturday. I just want to invite you all to that. And in your packet, there is a certificate that has been awarded to our NJROTC as a distinguished unit with honors for the 2023-2024 school year. And I know we're all so proud of this program, but I just sort of want to make note that with this honor, that they can then nominate 3 cadets for 3 different military academies, which is wow. It's huge. It's huge. I don't know if anyone's ever had a child go through the process or be interested, but this is amazing for our school and our students. And I mean, I think Nick said earlier, right, some kids are going to go to the workforce and some kids may be interested in a military experience. And this is just amazing for our students that, you know, they could potentially nominate 9 of our students for military academies is just, so I just wanted you to have that. Also, we have seen, and we are really proud of this, increased participation for some of our athletic teams. You'll see in the notes from our athletic director that he outlines that as well. Dr. Salavardos and Mr. Wyman and I attended, and Dr. Allen showed up too, the unified basketball game, the first one of the season, and we have a very healthy bench. So I know the Whitelaws were there as well, and our students were, you know, they all got, I think, a lot of playing time, but they also had a great rotation, and it is just a wonderful experience. If you get the opportunity to go, please do so. I told Peggy I have a little bit of a cheat sheet for the athletic schedule that I will share, so you don't have to go on the website if you find that confusing. We've had really great attendance at our sporting events. Our homecoming was just unbelievable. And I can't stress enough that we are seeing so many great moments in classrooms. We will highlight them each month, but I want you to know that the things that we're working on are carrying over to our classrooms. The instructional strategies we've been talking about that we work with Dr. Hawley on, differentiation, our co-teaching teams are really working on that. And we are seeing those implemented in the classroom, and we're seeing students engage with them. And so my final thing is just that our educators are really showing up. They are in their classrooms. They are at our after-school events to support the students, and they are fully engaged in our professional learning. And I think our students are absolutely great, of course. But I have to acknowledge that our educators are really great as well. And I just want to take a moment to pull that out.
Thank you.
Has a question.
Yes, Dr. Allen, sorry.
I saw an example of that this afternoon. I came to work out in the gym, and lo and behold, there's a basketball game going on. And it's the special ed kids, co-ed, with regular kids to help them, support them, a game Quabbin against Narragansett. And the stands were full. There were what, 10 or 12, 15 teachers there?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Maybe more. Yeah, Richie Zelneritis and Mark Myville and, you know, a whole bunch of them supporting the kids and encouraging them. There was more enthusiasm, more shouting and screaming and clapping and happy sort of things. And it was just absolutely heartwarming and a wonderful thing. What's Lisa? That's the name of that little girl, right?
Lisa Rollins?
Yeah. Apparently she was coaching one of the teams. Any of you who have been to one of the games knows who she, almost any game. She's there, she's active, she was telling Myville, yeah, boy, I wish they had this when I was a kid, when I was going here, so I could have played. It just, that's, I think, a wonderful endorsement of the point that you're making.
Yeah, the integrated team is wonderful. Absolutely.
And I think our students, I mean, for me, I think the highlight is when the students, the stands are filled halfway with students and they're like cheering the players on, and the players are like, right, their arms are up, they're like soaking it in. And I said, I'd love to be at their dinner table tonight to hear how many times they talked about, you know, their shot or whatever, but they just wanted that. And then after the game, they ran up into the stands and all the kids welcomed them. And I mean, that's the environment that we should be really proud of.
Fantastic. All right. One more on the preliminary. October 1st.
Oh, yes. So we have our preliminary October 1st figures. These are not certified yet. They are also in your packet. On the drive. And on the drive. So you'll see we have 277 school choice students. Last year we had 272. And we have currently 2,181 students in seats. And that has decreased a little bit since September, which is pretty normal as we find out students have moved or different things like that. We've decreased by 8 students there.
Good. And again, this is preliminary.
Yes.
I think the state wants it by October 1st, but you have time to be able to sift through if there's any potential movement or validation, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions on the preliminary?
What's the question? The out-of-district students, is that number down from last year? I recollect it is, but seems like it.
Do you know, John?
I think we're under 30 at this point.
Is it different than last year?
I'm not sure what the number was at the end of the year or at a height.
We'll find that out for you.
No, I'm just curious, because I thought there was a discussion, if not last year, then the year before, that we had a decrease. We weren't happy with the number out because it just seemed to be increasing. I we had that discussion. And it seems to be, I don't know if it's significantly lower.
Yeah,
but lower.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I'll get it.
Just curious.
It was like 280 something.
280 something.
Are you looking it up? Okay. All right, okay.
There were 27 out of district on October 1. One was a school choice in out of district out. 27.
27?
So we're down.
So now it's down to 24. Okay. Preliminary, good. Fantastic. Any other question? Superintendent? Thank you.
Is it a rise in homeschool students?
Homeschool student numbers have been up since COVID, to be honest with you. So we did see families move to homeschooling during COVID, and some of them have stuck with it. But we do have a pretty high percentage of families that choose to homeschool.
Had a few come back though this year.
Yeah. So I'm going to pass it over to Carrie Vassar for our Director of Teaching, Learning, and Support report.
So we have one grant update. We just received notice this week that we were awarded the STL and Mental Health Grant. That's a continuation award, so we've had that in the past, and we will again have a committee of faculty that work on that initiative. It allows us to bring in some programming. And then Colleen and I were talking, and I thought maybe what I'd start doing is addressing some of the strategic objectives and initiatives that we have that align. So this time I'm going to talk to you a little bit about PD, our collaborative learning opportunities for our educators. I had the opportunity to be involved in the NEAS process in the high school the last couple of years. And one of the things that they brought to our attention, and it's a common problem for high schools, is there isn't a lot of collaborative planning time because of the schedule of the high school teachers. So one of the things we tried to do this year is to make a shift to professional learning communities, or PLCs, during our early release professional development time. And so, it's collaborative planning time, but with a little bit of structure around it. So those groups are being facilitated by our instructional coaches, our elementary and high school teacher leaders, and our academic coordinators. And they are receiving some training in facilitating groups and using protocols, different types of protocols, so that there's some guardrails on the work a little bit, and it keeps them moving forward, but it also lets every group kind of pick up what they need. So for example, our teams that are implementing new curriculum this year are able to unpack those units together and consider how they're going to implement them and really dig into them. Groups that have been, that don't have yet a set curriculum that we would purchase, that are still using teacher developed materials, can develop those materials in those sessions. And there's sort of a cycle where what they do is you identify a student need in your class, you then develop either the assessment or you unpack a unit, create a learning plan for it. You may select certain key lessons that you're going to develop to get planned together and then observe each other teach and get some feedback on. You present any work that's being done to the team for some tuning. You do calibration with a rubric when you're looking at student work. And then you're looking at the students' results and coming up with trends and identifying next steps for those students. And then the cycle continues. So it sort of keeps your work moving forward. So far, our feedback was really positive in our first session on September 20th. So we give our educators an exit ticket to see how they felt about the day. And 98% of our respondents selected items under the question of what went well for you today. And many of them selected several things under that list. And only 13% of respondents even selected anything under the category of what got in the way of your learning today. So we felt like that was kind of a resounding success. And the comments, there were many educators who said this is exactly what we need and we need more of it. So I'm encouraged by that. I think that it's giving our teacher leaders also an opportunity to really develop their skills as well. And so we hope that that continues to go well. And I know that you've known about our work with Dr. Hawley and the Hill for Literacy in the past. We're continuing both those initiatives this year. We're also bringing in a new person, Dr. Lisa Deeker, and she'll be joining us at the middle school, working with those co-teaching pairs that we talked about, doing some professional development with them, as well as observing their practice and giving them some feedback. So I won't go through the entire accolades here of Dr. Lisa Deeker, but she's quite a person. So I listed some of her achievements for you so you could check in on her a little bit more.
Thank you. Any questions for Carrie to the superintendent?
I just have a quick question on the SEL mental health grant.
Yes.
Is there information in the drive for that?
Are you looking for a description of the work or a description of the grant, Charity?
Maybe both.
Okay.
Just because I'm not familiar.
Sure.
I could definitely get you something, and I don't know, are you interested in more information about sort of all of our grants or that one in particular?
I mean, it would be great to know about all of them, but I guess this one in particular, just because it came up.
Sure. I can bring next month a little bit more information about the other grants that we have, either in process or that we've been awarded. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Thank you, Carrie.
Okay, and now I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Clark, our Director of Building Grounds and School Security, for just some updates.
So we've been working with the safety committee, the safety committee for Quabbin, and as well as the elementary schools and local police and fire departments too. Our goal is to establish a safety plan for all the buildings, but also breaking it down with the brief synopsis we've gotten so far from our security consultants as to where we may be lacking and what we need to do to improve the safety and security in the building, and then apply that to the safety and security policy binder, as well as flip charts that we're working on currently right now that will reside with the teachers in the classrooms, which will give them a quick guide as to what to do during certain issues that may arise, whether it's a lockdown, whether it's an ALICE or whatever. So we've been working on those weekly, and we are making good headway at this point. We are still waiting for the final report from the security consultants so we can, I guess, more establish it and customize it to our schools themselves as opposed to more of a generic shell. So that work has been going very well and seems very well received by local law enforcement as well. The press box and seating, I guess we'll wait till.
We're going to talk about that.
Okay.
My report.
Dr. Allen?
We spent a good bit of time fighting our way through the position and the role for after-school use last year. And I know you have a major role to play in that. And one of these months, would you mind coming and talking to us at Review and Reform? I think it's too early yet, but how it seems to be going, does it seem to be working okay, that sort of thing.
Certainly, and that's another thing that we've been working on separately is we do have two people who act as security in the school after hours. So after the school sessions are over at 2:00, we do have two people that are on patrolling the building inside. So we have one that comes on at 1:30 and stays until about 5:30, and one that's on until typically 7:30 at night, depending upon what the event is that gets changed. So we've been reestablishing that with them and what their roles are. We just recently had a meeting today, and we've developed plans that we're putting into effect next week, which are predicated upon what the event is. Which parts of the school will be accessible, which parts will not, how they'll be accessible, how people coming for, whether it's a basketball game, a football game, an event in the auditorium, how they're going to enter the building, how they're going to enter the grounds, where they can't enter the building or the grounds, where security or administration will be posted for that, when the doors will be locked, unlocked, etc. So most of that will all go into effect next week.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Anyone for Kevin?
Okay,
Thank you.
so Andrew, Mr. Walsh is up next. Director of Technology report.
Just a brief one. We are still down one staff member. We're hoping that they will return next week and we'll be fully staffed for the first time since the start of the school year, which will give us a little bit of breathing room. We are in the middle of a wireless access point upgrade at the QRMHS campus, including a new controller. So we're actually starting that earlier this week, and we're hoping to be done with the controller early next week, when we will start replacing access points after school every day once the students leave. We are still working on the website. We ran into some ADA compliance issues as we were, giving it some last glances, and we found that there were some staff members that had been moved and some content that needed to be changed. We did give a little demonstration of where we are with the website during the technology subcommittees so that they could see that a lot of progress had been made and what we were looking up and how different it was from our old site. So I'm hoping that maybe they'll chime in later to say what they think. We have two student interns that are working in the technology department right now that are both, I believe, seniors, and they're shadowing our tech department for 1 period per day each, and they help us with printer repairs, toner replacement, fixing Chromebooks, things like that. So they get a little taste of what we do all day. We had a new copier arrive to replace one that was coming off of lease. That actually arrived today. We're going to be setting it up tomorrow. We will be replacing the rest of the copier fleet in March. So we'll have to go out to the bid for that after the new year starts. And our cybersecurity training is currently in its 3rd round. We actually got our 3rd round of phishing attempts both yesterday, today, and the day before. And I cannot say how many emails I received from staff saying, this seems like I shouldn't be getting this. I'm not going to click on it, but is it okay? So I was really impressed the staff is reaching out rather than either just deleting things or clicking on them. And since our last meeting, we have closed 300 support tickets and 722 since the start of school. And that is all I have.
Any questions for Andrew? Mark?
And just a quick question, Mark Wigland. Yep. How successful are we at getting the recordings of the meetings up by the Monday following the actual week of the meeting?
I have missed the last one. I noticed that today, so I did put that up. I'm hoping to get, again, that's part of the things that we're just because we're understaffed, I'm missing or they're falling off the radar. So I am going to make a concerted effort with a calendar reminder every Monday morning now to get those meetings up online.
Very good, thank you.
Else? Okay. Thank you, Andrew.
Okay, and then we're going to move on to Cheryl for our Director of Administrative Services report.
So our auditors are working on our report and they still require a few data points and reports from us, which our team has been supplying them with. We did receive our OPEB valuation report last week and that's been forwarded to the auditors. Our workers' compensation audit was received last Friday with an added premium of $18,214. A lot of that is attributed to, we did not have solidified salary schedules in place when the estimates were given. There are some things on that report that I've never seen in the past. I've asked our agents to take a look at it before I make the payment. In our school nutrition department, I believe I did tell you that we have a new director who'll be starting on the October 18th. She has been working with Kerry. She came in on Saturday, worked a full day with her. She has been doing some online trainings already. The middle high school staff is preparing lunches now for the post-grads in New Braintree Grade School. We started that this week. It didn't go flawless because Mr. Devine was not available, but it went fine. So what is happening, because of their schedule, which is written in the report that you can read, all of the students are together on Monday for their academic work. So they are actually going to be transported here next Monday to the middle high school and have all of the options that the middle high school has. And they're going to be, at Mr. Devine's request, they're going to sit in one of the separate classrooms so they can be together and not maybe with middle schoolers because they are 20. On Tuesday morning, we have a Google sheet that the teacher is doing right now, which Mr. Devine will take on later. She is placing the orders for the students, so she goes around to the students, asks if they're going to buy for today, purchase lunch for today and Wednesday, and then they come up, a driver comes up here and brings the lunches back to them for Tuesday and Wednesday. Mr. Clark's team went out to get a refrigerator for over there, so they have places to put their lunches. On Thursday morning, the same routine. They put in their order for Thursday and Friday. And the teacher also has to check in a box to make sure that the student that requested the meal actually took the meal, because that's how we get reimbursed. So we put that into place. So we think that it's going to go well. It was very difficult for Kerry to put together a menu that met all of the requirements, because all of the requirements had to be met. And when you have only 11 students there, it's very hard to meet those sodium content and the caloric content. So we had a meeting with our rep at DESE, hoping that we were going to get a little slide. Oh, no, nothing. Had to meet all the requirements. So she does have a very limited menu, but it's something that would be able to be transported quickly. And the students that go out on Tuesdays and Thursdays, some of them go to internships or working assignments, and they're able to take their lunch with them. On Wednesday, they're all at a restaurant in Sturbridge working, but they'll be able, if they want to, they can take a lunch with them. And on Friday, it's their social day. So that right now is consisting of a lot of field trips. So again, the ones that want to take it can take their lunch with them. And we're following all the regulations. For quarterly reports in your packet and also in your drive is the appropriation control report for the first quarter. It actually goes through October 11th, and actually I'll be talking about that later on the agenda because I have a budget transfer request. The quarterly reports for the revolving account and the grant reports are not available tonight. We haven't received all the bank statements yet. It's kind of early in the month. We need those to make our last transactions, and also there's a lot of grants that are in different stages right now, so we wanted to wait until we got everything together before we send that to you. But next month, we'll have that ready for you. The warrants released since our last school committee meeting was bi-weekly payroll 7 and 8, which is today. Weekly payroll 12, 13, 14, and 15. And accounts payable warrants 22B, 23A, 24H, 25S, 26A, 27B. 28FQ, 29FR, and 30FO. That's all for now.
Okay.
Dave's been very busy.
I missed one.
I'm sure my team was right on you.
So they sent me another one, the same one. 10:59.
Good. Okay. Mark?
Just a quick question. After we kind of closed our project, in August, I read a lot of articles about increases in rural school funding. And did that materialize, and how much did we get above and beyond?
We haven't been told yet. The numbers have not come out yet.
Any ideas?
No, our Mars representative, Julie Kelly, he actually went to the legislator and asked when the number's going to be released. They should have been released the 1st of October. We haven't heard. And I know you were at a meeting last week, so.
Same, yeah.
Okay, so it looks like we're still going to get some additional resources.
Well, that's what they're saying, but they haven't released the money and we had anticipated it by now. So.
The governor's goal was like 60 million or something, right? But there may be somewhere else, right?
Well, what Dr. Muir said is that should be around $1 million, but I'm gonna wait till it gets released. And also, on the other hand, they're talking about 9C cuts too. So we might get rural school aid money, but they might be cutting our Chapter 70 money. So until we know what's going on, we don't know anything.
Anyone else? Cheryl?
And last, we have John with his Director of Student Services report.
So back in the spring, I know I reported off on this before, you went through the tiered focus monitoring review and received a final report. And there were a couple different things that were actually cited on there. One was bullying. And since our last report, which was supplied to DESE on October 6th, we've actually resolved that fully, so that's no longer on our corrective action plan list. There was a question that actually came up, some of the information that was asked for in in this most recent report was to give them links relevant to our student handbooks. And when they reviewed that, they were kind of wondering if some of the language was not showing up that they had requested on the link site. So we're working to resolve that. And we have until December 15th to really resolve that and address it with them and submit another report. Transportation issues within the district, actually for special ed, continue to be an area of concern for us. We're having quite a few problems with routes either not showing up on time, kids not getting picked up. A lot of complaints from parents, sometimes daily, but frequently hearing essentially complaints from parents relevant to the pickup times, the drop-off times, the time spent on routes. Personally, in the office, I think we're seeing a lot of difficulty with billing, communication with the vendor, and actually getting solutions to some of these problems in a timely fashion. So I know.
McCarthy?
No, this would be Vanpool that we're actually dealing with.
Vanpool, oh, for the special ed kids.
Yeah, this is our special ed transportation. Our primary vendor is Vanpool.
Quick question, your resolution, I hear the frustration, it was mentioned, I know Cheryl mentioned it last month. I think you hit it last month too, briefly, but now it's continuing. So the resolution and the response is not good from Vanpool at all?
No.
And then what's our next steps if we need to ramp this up? Because this is becoming unacceptable. If we have children that are not where they're supposed to be, parents are going to be upset when children are on the bus longer or not there as it's supposed to be. So I'm curious of where the next steps would be.
Actually, I don't want to jump ahead relevant to the special.
Okay, and I'll.
That's okay, go ahead.
Okay. One of the things that we've been talking about is reviewing with legal counsel the contract relevant to the primary vendor. See what alternatives we can find to either address it with them or other alternatives outside of our contract.
Absolutely.
But the goal is, like you said, to really improve special ed transportation for our disabled students. We're not, from my opinion, we're not meeting like a minimum standard relevant to transportation at this point. And we need them to address it, or we need to figure out alternative ways to do that.
Lee?
Yeah, so I spoke with Cheryl a bit. So Cheryl is our chief contracting officer.
Yes.
So essentially, if these people are in breach, so normally what one would do is kind of send them a letter saying you're in breach of our contract. Under basic contract law, you're supposed to give them a chance to remedy the breach. And there are a couple ways you can do it. One, you could ask them, what do you propose? But the other is what we can do is say, here's what we propose as a remedy, because you can beat them to the punch as opposed to wasting time, waiting a month for them to respond, and give them a timeline and just say, if you don't correct the breach or meet our approach to it, then cancel the contract and either go out again or, well, you have to go out again.
At least, okay, but thank you for bringing this to our attention again. And I can already feel the temperature in the room of the frustration from colleagues here. So we hear you loud and clear.
Thank you. To move on to,
Dr. Allen.
Yeah, do we have alternatives?
That's a good question. So I am going to say, and apologize for boring anybody with this if I start going back a few years, but back a few years, we had a lot more choices for vendors in the area, relevant to special ed transportation. The big yellow bus companies don't really kind of provide the same type of transportation, smaller vehicles with monitors. I mean, it's sometimes done, but it's rare to see that. I've actually reached out to some companies to see if we could get some information from them. Still kind of working on that. But as far as having a lot of resources relevant to taking over special ed transportation, there aren't a lot of games in town.
Well, that's why I asked. Vanpool's been doing us for 25 years, 20 years maybe.
I don't know if this new leadership, well, I know the superintendent will be researching this and looking at this. I know it's on a radar. So I don't know what the problem is.
Several years ago now, Vanpool was actually bought out by NRT. And so there is a difference relevant to the ownership and leadership. And there's been some changes there that they've thought would actually improve services, and they've not been like time proven. And truthfully, they've created more problems in some instances than the old methods that were used prior to the buyout, in my opinion.
Okay.
And now for something a little lighter. Actually in the process of just finalizing a new team chair position. And we do have a candidate for that. And she is actually working on trying to arrange a start date or a transition point to start here in this district. We also had kind of a transfer internally. So we do have a SOAR classroom at the middle school, high school level that's now vacant, but we do have applicants for that. We're interviewing next week. We're still advertising for positions like our PT, our physical therapist position. We have several para positions, a couple in the elementary SOAR program, and also in our new Braintree post-grad program as well that we're still advertising for, but don't have current applicants for.
Okay. Dr. Allen?
Yeah, you said physical therapist. Is that what Renee does, or is that different?
She's an athletic trainer, different degree, different certification.
So she's still with us?
She is. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the last thing I'll mention is really proportionate share. It's part of the 240 grant.
Okay.
And again, kind of some background history with proportionate share. Proportionate share is kind of a way for the federal and state governments to basically tell us we need to spend some money for kids that have IEPs, that might be homeschooled or might be attending private schools. So I'm kind of hoping to revamp that system a bit. I've been talking to the team chairs about how we can actually adjust this so that we're dealing with addressing it more in June instead of in September. Essentially what's expected from us is we send letters out to parents, anybody who's homeschooled that has a child on an IEP, and also any schools that have students that are on IEPs that attend a private school that we did not place them in, that are parentally placed, and offer them supports. Some of these supports might be tutoring, they could be walk-in services, it could be a number of other things, but essentially part of the 240 grant is devoted to proportionate share, and we're kind of like going through that process now to kind of catch up on where we should be.
That's a wonderful.
Thank you. Any other questions? Hey, John?
So at the end of the report, you're going to see that Mr. Myville provided a little update from on athletics. And so he has a couple shout outs in there. One is around the use of the vans. So our golf team and our cross country teams have been using these vans. And I think what's really interesting about it is that he reports that the student athletes are finding, and the coaches, that it's brought their teams closer together. Like, not just physically, but emotionally closer together, which is really nice. And they had a huge, a very exciting field hockey game at night. And they had the fields painted for breast cancer awareness. You can see those photos as part of your report. And he identified our upcoming senior game. So next week is a very busy week for us. So Tuesday is girls soccer senior night. Wednesday is boys and girls cross country senior day. Boys soccer is on Thursday, and then varsity football is October 27th. So those are always really fun nights because we get to recognize our senior athletes. And if you have the opportunity to attend, we'd love to see you there. It's really fun. Those are home games for senior nights, yes.
Thank you.
That's it from us, yep.
Much appreciated of all the information. The director. Do we have a student?
I have to say the field looked great. I don't know if it's all the rain we've had, but the field looked awesome for the field hockey game.
They've done an extensive amount of work to that this year.
Looked great.
Starting to show.
Student Advisory Council? I mean, teacher advisory?
I don't think anyone's here tonight.
No, no teacher, okay. Subcommittee reports, administrative review. Lee, anything else?
No, I think we're good to go.
Yeah, okay, we're good on that. The only other follow-up was, at that time, I know Lee has taken the lead on the administrative review and the central office. But in the September meeting, we also did ask about the bleachers. That was that, and that's now in the subcommittee. And I know we'll hear from Walter, but also we mentioned to know where we were on the fundraising piece. We wanted to at least, we knew we had about $30,000 had been contributed. So instead of, wouldn't be an administrative review kind of committee central office, it would be, it's not us to do the fundraising. We'll participate and be part of it. The administration will do that, but we at least are acknowledging that we already have some funds, $30,000, and it will then be overlooked and seen with the physical plant dealing with the bleachers. So I don't want to, I know we'll have an update on that as well. So.
If I could just correct the number.
Oh.
We don't have the proceeds from last week's fundraising event.
Okay.
But on the books right now is $43,026.
So a month ago, we had about 30, I was told about that, but now we have about 43,000. Fantastic. Okay. Audit, are we going to do that next month, or do you think?
We will be all done. It's all relative to whether Worcester Regional Retirement has their OPEB report completed, because our report includes part of their report.
Okay.
So I'll keep you informed. I'll just keep reaching out to the auditor.
Budget?
In your packet, FY /24 budget appropriation control report and the budget transfer request, which Cheryl alluded to earlier, dated 10/12/23. This is basically to move $230,000 from undesignated and regular education to special education, specifically area of instructional support. Comments on that?
First of all, there's a mistake in the last column header. It says budget balance. Please cross out balance. I haven't made a correction to the one that's in the portal. These transfers are specifically for salaries, because if you remember, we budgeted one number for negotiations in one account. So now we have people where they should be, except for over there in Mr. John's department where he keeps stealing from himself. But as we move people around, this was as of yesterday. These are strictly just to put the money where the salaries are.
Need a motion. I make a motion to move $230,000 from undesignated and regular education to special education, specifically instructional support.
Second.
Okay, second.
No, not specifically instructional support.
I'm sorry, to the instructional support line item?
Oh, in special ed, yes, but there are other transfers above. 404. 23404.
Okay. I just wanted to be sure I was correct.
Okay, so that, and then Joanne seconded. Any further questions, comments on this particular item? Transfer? Seeing and hearing none, roll call.
Excuse me, Dr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps?
Yes.
Mr. Lennon? Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Ms. Cartier?
Yes.
Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cormier?
Yes.
Ms. Chafee?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So budget, nothing else at this time?
Nothing else.
And then once we hear,
Hopefully we hear at some point in the not too distant future.
I just looked it up, there's nothing posted yet.
okay. So again, then we'll know where we potentially could prioritize and see where.
The problem with rural school aid is it's for 1 year.
Yeah.
So they haven't told us or given us what we're supposed to have. And we have to spend it by June 30th. So where are we spending $1 million by June 30th? It does not roll over. It cannot roll over.
Cannot?
Does it tell you how you have to spend it? No, that's up to us, but that's a lot of money.
Right, and here we are, October 12th, still no release.
Exactly. But I know Mars is working on it. I know Julie Kelly's working on it.
Collective bargaining?
Nothing at this time.
Okay, buildings, grounds, and safety.
Yes. Report. So, before I get into the bleacher project, first, we have an update on the chiller. And, the basic update is we're waiting on a transformer to ship on, October 24th, I think is the date, right?
Correct. So they're planning on coming out tomorrow and doing a final walkthrough of the project with us. And the transformer is slated to ship on the 24th.
So, they're gonna check with the provider to see if the warranty does not start until the machine operates, so. That's pretty much it on the chiller. So the bleacher project, I went to a football game on a Friday night, just to kind of see what it was like, and probably a lot of you people have already been to these games, but I was kind of stunned that the three, and I know you may have heard this before, but the three bottom rows of the bleachers, you can't see the game. You can't watch the game from that level. Because there's a fence there, the football team stands up in the way. So the first three rows of the bleachers are useless. So anyway, we've been talking at the Buildings and Grounds and Safety Subcommittee about what to do with whether we should go forward with the press box, and if we do, what are our options? Should we, I mean, we're talking about raising up the bleachers, maybe so we have 15 rows, maybe raising up the whole structure. There's a lot of different options we need to explore. But I think the first step we need to take is, I mean, Mr. Clark has been doing some first step, no cost research, but much of that has really not turned up a lot of useful information because really we need an engineering study. So I would like to put forward a motion. See if, well, does anybody have any questions on it before I go with the motion as far as what we should be doing with the bleachers or? Okay, go.
So we're looking at, it's your motion, but we're talking bleachers and press box are kind of the same entity, so to speak?
Well.
Or not?
We're looking at a lot of options. We want to figure out what we can afford. So one of the options is to move a section of the bleachers out of the way, maybe down to the end, the existing bleachers, and stick the press box in there. Another one would be to raise up the bleachers so everybody can see and add a press box. That's probably middle of the road. And then the other one would be to add, so we have 15 rows of bleachers and a press box. And that's probably, the high cost.
How many rows do we have now?
Although raising them up is very expensive too, because you have to put a concrete footing under there, so.
How many rows do we have now?
I think it's 5. Does that sound right? 5.
Yeah.
Is it?
Is it?
Is it?
Probably like 6 or 8.
Yeah, I think the initial project,
I actually don't think it.
take out a section of the bleachers in the middle, which would be replaced with a new section of bleachers, which has more rows, which a press box would sit technically behind that. Basically on the slope and then part of the parking spaces. So you would gain more seating just by doing that initial portion, which was the study that was done back in 2020.
Need it.
ADA obviously becomes an issue, where if we're adding seating, if we're providing enough ADA for that percentage. As discussed, the first 3 rows of the bleachers right now currently don't provide. If you, especially in a football game with the football team in front of you, you can't see anything that's going on. The feasibility of trying to raise the existing structure and filling with the site work and the concrete that's going to go underneath it, it's most likely not going to be feasible. You'd be better off to actually remove those existing and replace the existing bleachers with ones that sit up on pylons, so it's higher and everything is accessible and you can see. I am working with a bleacher company right now to try and get some preliminary information for us at no cost. But the determination really needs to be made if this project is going to move forward, or we want more information on it. We need authorization to basically get an exploratory budget with an engineer. We have preliminary reports and studies that were done before as to what the site work would be and what's required to do this, which were back to 2020. Those were predicated on a certain press box and certain bleacher set. At the end of last year, there was several different companies that were brought in and provided different sets of bleachers, different accommodations needed for each, different levels of them, which if we decided to go with a different one, different manufacturer, we would need that engineer to redesign what he had done. Most of what he does is make sure your ADA is there, make sure you're going to meet all your code, but the majority of what he did was mostly site work, describing what the site work needed to be, cost estimates, that kind of stuff like that. But obviously that's all predicated upon what you choose for a product and how far you're going to go with this. Are you just going to do that section of bleachers and the press box? Are we going to add seating on the sides? If you take that section of seating out to put the seating in the press box in, are we going to move that to the end and try and gain more seating that way, knowing that we're still losing those first 3 rows, but you will gain some above? I heard back in the past that somebody was talking about taking that section of bleachers being removed and putting it on the opposite side of the field. So there was some for the opposing team bleachers as well. So I think that if you're planning on moving forward or you're thinking of moving forward, we need the authorization to have some money to do an exploratory with an engineer and then be able to present you with an A, B, and C options. Whether it's an A is your, this is it. We're going to raise this up. We're going to have all this seating. Everybody's going to be able to see. We're going to have ADA. We're going to have the press box. Your B may be not adding the seating, just doing your ADA and your press box. The C may be, just utilizing what we have. It just depends on what you guys decide your threshold is and how far you want to go.
Walter?
Mrs. Duvall, do you want to make any comment about the financing aspects of it?
Well, my logical brain says we would need to know if we want to move forward with this project before we talk about anything. But once we get an engineer on board and he does exactly what Mr. Clark said and give us some options, this project's going to have to go out to bid. And so we want to have that engineer also write the scope of work so that we can put it out to bid. You could put it out to bid with alternates in the bidding process. So if you wanted to see what it would cost for just the press box and whatever, or full blown, everything's new, we meet all the codes, everybody can see now. We could do it that way. We can bid that way. And then we can also go to the town that way. We can go to town meeting with 2 options. Just give us the press box with limited additional seating, or we're gonna do this right and everybody's gonna be able to see the football game. And let the townspeople are gonna pay for it, let them decide which way they're gonna pay. We can do that. But I was hoping we could make a decision tonight on whether or not we're gonna move forward so that we can get working on this before the snow flies. Because once that happens, everything just costs more money because, you can't have somebody come out and look at site work when there's 5 feet of snow on the ground.
Peggy?
How does the fundraising group play into it?
Meaning?
How much money have they raised, or, I mean, they had shown different specs of different things at one time. Are they expecting something?
Well, we don't have, well, I don't know if we have a fundraising group. I think it's Mr. Myville heading it all up.
Right.
But I reported earlier, what we have on the books right now is $43,000, and there was a major event where
Alumni weekend, yeah.
Yeah, pay that. So if that would just come off the total cost. If you don't go forward with the project, we know where every donation came from and it would have to go back.
They had a goal of $100,000 to raise $100,000, and there are some alumni working on that. That is still their goal. But, you know, some donations are a year old. They're questioning, you know, is this happening? Isn't it happening?
Right.
And I think I just want to say, because we went out to visit the site, right? So I think in my mind, I was thinking it was about a press box, but really when I got there and we started talking about the bleachers and looking at the bleachers and thinking they're not handicap accessible. Our students, when they're at a soccer game after school, it's one thing when the crowd is small, but that football game where I forget how many people Mr. Myville said he thought we had through the gates, but there were people standing everywhere, and then the bleachers were very full, and the administrator shared that's when sort of bad things happen, right? Not just with kids, but with adults. They get frustrated because they can't see there's people in front of them. And never mind sort of the press box, that almost became secondary. We're using this staging that is crazy. I'm sure Mr. Nutter could talk about it, but we pay $5,000 a year to lease it, from what I understand. And, you know, I think Cheryl, through the process, also said, you know, if we're going to do this, let's figure out the right way to do it. So we're not coming back again and, you know, just fixing it up temporarily and not really addressing all the concerns that were there. It wasn't just about having a press box for me. This is a bleacher project.
Mark? Yeah, just a quick question. You know, whenever I see the football field, you know, the bottom line is, you know, people don't really want, probably in my town, you don't want to spend $350,000 on a football field. Now, if we can sort of like change that perspective to incorporate, you know, a zillion other sports, the unified sports program, a whole bunch of different activities, the marching band, you know, just graduation, you know, they have to realize we got to get away from just a football field. In my mind.
We have lots of other athletic events there.
College stadiums where I've sat in the first few rows and I haven't seen the game. As well as I'd like. But, you know, it's just a term football field. I mean.
So we should start calling it alumni field, that's what it is.
Yeah, right.
Alumni field.
Plus the handicap access.
Right.
That's significant. That's a legal thing.
So right now, what they're using for that is on the end of the bleacher sets, which is closest to the snack shack, is an area that's got a ramp that a wheelchair can get up in, and they basically just put a handicap sign on the fence. So people can pull up with a wheelchair and sit on grade, not on the bleachers, but on grade next to the bleachers. But again, with that chain link fence at that mark, you're not seeing much besides the chain link fence on the post.
In my experience in my classes, once you do a building project, which is called a public works project, a construction project, you need to bring it back, you need to bring it to code. So Kevin tried to reach out to our building inspector and say, what types of things are we in trouble for? But didn't get really answers. But I can see ADA being one of those things.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I addressed with the bleacher company yesterday was the original design, they were told not to add ADA accessibility to it for some reason. So they're looking into that right now, and they're going to provide a price. They were hoping to get it to us for tonight, but they weren't able to do it. What it will cost on the original quote that they gave us by adding the ramp and the handicap accessibility to it, and what our options are. So I will hopefully have more information from them by next week.
Walter?
So what I'd like to do is have a motion, and if it succeeds, then I have a second motion. I'd like to move that school committee approve moving forward with the press box project. Yeah, that's all. That's the motion.
That includes bleachers.
Sorry?
That includes the bleachers.
Well, yeah, that would be just, yes.
So, press box and bleachers then, I mean.
Yeah.
Is that what Cheryl meant by doing it correctly?
No, the
I'm doing it correctly.
right about in the middle, almost in the middle, that section would come out. Another section of bleachers would go in, go higher, and then the press box. So it really is the press box and the bleacher thing. So it's not just, you can't just suspend the press box up above it.
Right. It won't do anything to site.
No, it will do nothing to the current bleachers that are there.
Okay, so you, again, the motion is to,
I'll second.
okay, second, okay.
And then, so my question is, so when you say move forward, what are we articulating here? What does that mean?
That means we approve, we're going to approve taking next steps. And then if we approve this, then I'm going to ask for approval to have an exploratory engineering contract, which makes sense, to determine cost, feasibility, cost of different options, so on and so forth. So.
So the first one is really the intent for us to continue forward on this is the intent.
Right, right now, we just want to know if the committee feels what you want to proceed with or not.
Any questions on that, on the intent of moving forward on the concept? Seeing and hearing none, roll call.
Dr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps?
Yes.
Mr. Willannon?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Ms. Cartier?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cormier?
Yes.
Ms. Chafee?
Yes.
Mr. Wigler?
Yes.
Ms. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
And motion is I move to enter into an exploratory contract with an engineer to develop options for the Press Park project. Came right? Second.
Okay, second, yes, question.
Will we have money to do that?
We will find the money to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, we have.
Said if we expect it to, if we're going to keep this engineer on retainer to go through the project, and we think it's going to cost more than $10,000, we have to at least get quotes.
Right.
3 quotes. And that's how the engineer will be chosen.
At least exploratory, be able to see what our options are as well. And again, thank you for all the work on the free end, on your salary, and doing everything over and above you're doing on that. But now we need more thorough perspective of what the next steps would be.
So we're going to articulate the options as you guys kind of put forward, right?
Yeah, what I basically, they can give you an A, B, and a C option. So A would be your Cadillac, B would be your mid-grade, and C would be the bare minimum we would have to do to put a press box in.
Okay. And then we'll also entertain, maybe they have some idea that we haven't thought of.
Exactly. That's what we're hoping.
Dave?
Kevin, as far as safety is concerned, would it be feasible to move the bleachers to the opposite side?
The entire set?
The entire set?
It depends on where you put them, because we have a line set, a main line set of electrical lines that comes out of a transformer, goes back on that side of the track. We'd have to avoid that. If not avoid it, we'd have to concrete. Well, but to move them over there, you're gonna have a lot of site work involved, cranes involved.
Wouldn't be there a lot of site work involved, putting concrete on the home side?
It depends on what you're referring to. If you're referring to the entire bleacher section, if you wanted to try and raise the entire bleacher section, the project would consist of dismantling what you currently have, put it to the side, excavate everything back out, probably down at least 8 feet, and then bring it back up in layers, compacted until you hit the concrete line. Then you're going to concrete it all the way up and raise it up on a platform, so it's on a complete platform because of the way those bleachers are designed. If you actually pulled that bleacher sections out, completely out what you have right now, they would probably put it on piers. So you would get what they call an elevated bleacher section. It's already made to be elevated, and you just put concrete piers and set it on that of your area. So that's where I can't tell you what cost is going to be the best, but I would think by the time you do all the site work with your existing and try and raise those, you're probably gonna be at or above what it would be just to replace those with an elevated section like it should be. And the existing press box that was spec'd out back in 2020, remember, was only one section, so kind of the middle section of bleachers would be pulled out. Put to the side, done whatever with it, and a whole new section of bleachers goes in there with additional rows go up behind the existing.
Yep.
And then the press box sits behind that up on piers. So your whole line of bleachers current would stop like this, the new section would go up, I believe it's 6 more rows or so. And then behind that's the press box. So you'd picture one section coming out with a walk lane directly in the middle of the bleachers, going right up, and then a press box behind it. Press box is gonna sit out past that grass slope and sit into a few parking spaces. So all that has to come out, be excavated. That's what we paid an engineer for in 2020. So we actually have estimated construction costs and what they feel the scope would be already designed for that back then.
Then we would have to protect those pillars that it's on in the parking lot so that someone like my son learning doesn't hit the fence or hit a pier and it comes down. We're gonna have to take out quite a few parking spaces.
It's little options you're gonna wanna look at when you talk to the engineer at that point too, because if you're gonna have the press box up in the air like that and you're gonna have it elevated, how much is it gonna cost to enclose those walls on the bottom of it and you have storage? You just made athletic storage. I mean, is that an upcharge on a job of $300,000 of 25 grand and all of a sudden we have good securable athletic storage underneath? It's little things like that that we want to try and
To look at.
provide you all
Those options, yeah. Okay, so we still have a motion, and any other further questions?
Yeah, just I think a quick one. So, I mean, I know in my brain what a press box is, but what do we utilize it for? And is there an option to have no press box?
So currently, right now, they have metal staging. So as if you were working on the side of a house and they put up the typical metal staging, we have that sitting out on the grass, and our announcers and statisticians, et cetera, they basically go up on that in all the weather and they announce the game from there is basically what they do. I have a couple of renderings here I can show you if you want to see what some of them look like and what was kind of proposed for here. That's the basic gist of it.
Lee, he's also had people refuse to go up there because of it being the way it is, it's scaffolding.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but I was just wondering, you know, once again, if we're looking at a money thing, is
Right, right.
if there are options, what's more important? You want to pick the bleachers up and get them versus that. I mean, I can appreciate being indoors when you're doing stuff like that, either reporting or taking the movie.
Just seems like if we're gonna do a project like that, we should just incorporate it all.
No,
Right.
I'll do it right, as you said.
It's also a real missed opportunity for our students. So our sound system, I think, sits in the building where they sell the tickets. And for communication to the people that are up on the scaffold when things happen in the game, it's kind of crazy. But a lot of schools have media clubs, and the students are the ones who are very involved in announcing the games and setting up and doing all those kinds of things. So I know it feels like athletics, and I think we want to have a way to market it differently. I agree with that. But it is a real missed opportunity for our students to get some real world experience that we talk about, to be a part of these games in a different way that may not be student athletes or interested if they want to be a broadcaster or something like that. So I just want us to think about that too. It's not just, seating for.
And if you have it, you will find more use for it.
Oh, for sure.
Everyone does.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. Any other further questions? All right, for the feasibility and that study, engineering part, roll call, please.
So this is for the second. Okay. Dr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps?
Yes.
Mr. Willannon?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Ms. Cartier?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cormier?
Yes.
Ms. Chafee?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
And I'm done.
You're done. Okay. Okay, policy review and reform.
Yes. Some of the most important stuff we covered earlier with this internship. You all have these brown bar graph things, which is MCAS. And we're still coming out of the doldrums in the last few years. What's interesting is to look at the 10th grade, because that's kind of where we wind up with the test here. ELA average, it's the 10th grade is up. Math, the 10th grade is up. 22, 23, Science, And then it has chronic absenteeism, reading benchmark, which is something that is the data that they use for administrative work and figuring out where things should go. And on the back, what are we doing about it? This is probably the most interesting part of the report. It talks about new curriculum, intervention in the middle school, Hill, which we've heard about, Dr. Hawley, which we've heard about, implementing of professional learning communities, which we've heard about, co-teaching, goal setting in progress, professional development. So, again, I referenced the comment that Lee made when we had our presentation, which is this other stuff that we're doing is so much more important. But in my mind, this is a baseline. The kids need to be able to read and write and compute and do science and know some social studies in order to get to FlexCon or some of these other pathways, or take college courses, all those sorts of things. So attending to this at some level is really important. And we're not doing great, but we're doing sort of okay at best, I would say. So you have the information on that. Internship, I think we've covered that quite well. Curriculum update, well, that's pretty much what's on the back of this. Class size, we go through that every year. And the goal is to understand classes under 15. Why we have them, whether we should continue, what's the justification, and that sort of thing. And really, it's things like NJR, world language, the innovation and pathways. And 11th and 12th grades are particularly small. Middle school is much larger. So maintaining the curriculum, the classes, so that when the larger classes come along, they still exist, is an important component. So when we went through that and saw what the classes are, we agreed that they should continue. So that's sort of where we are on that. We have two kinds of policies to deal with tonight. This is a little bit different than I told you, Mark. We don't have any on the table. They've all been dealt with.
Okay.
Earlier. We have a bunch of policies from AA, BDFA through EFE that mostly are changing a word here or updating a paragraph there. It's all stuff that our association has sent to us to do. And I would make a motion that they all be placed on the table for our next meeting. And I'm so pleased to be able to make that motion instead of 30 days, which is a policy change we made last year in case we have a meeting.
Correct, in between, correct. Yep.
Yes. So I move that all of those policies with their changes be put on the table until our next meeting. That'll give you a chance to look at them. If you have any questions or issues or anything you want to talk about, so. Okay, Lee, second.
Lee, okay. So this is policies to put on the table.
Yes.
Okay. Any further questions? Just so you know on that, they'll be put on the table, which can be reviewed for comments and follow-up in regards to the public and school committee members and anybody. Roll call, please.
Dr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps?
Yes.
Mr. Willianen?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Ms. Cartier?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cormier?
Yes.
Ms. Chafee?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler?
Yes.
Ms. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Okay, the next batch, the BDFA, E1, BDFA, E2, BDF, E3, et cetera, are all ones that MASC, that's our association, deems outmoded, outdated, absorbed into something else. But lo and behold, they're not needed. What a wonderful concept. So I make a motion that all of these be removed from our policy handbook.
Second.
Second, okay, Lee. Any further discussion? Since these have to be updated and they're no longer relevant. Roll call, please.
Excuse me. Dr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps?
Yes.
Mr. Willianen?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Ms. Cartier?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cormier?
Yes.
Ms. Chafee?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
And lo and behold, that concludes the other things that we tried to intersperse earlier in the meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Allen. Student services.
We met tonight and a lot of it was talked about was the transportation piece, which you guys already heard a lot about. And I think Cheryl and her people will square that away. We met the CPAC chair, talked about hires and hires, which you heard. One thing I would like to hear a little more about, and I see that she's gone now, Shelley, was the pre-K.
Oh, sure. Did
The full
we not
day?
get to that?
Just to see how it's going and.
We can have her come to the next
Yeah.
meeting.
Or she can just talk from there too.
Yeah, she can.
I know I don't think she's there now, but.
Yeah. I can tell you that it's going very well, that,
Highly received or?
yeah, the students are adjusting as well as the teachers to having a full day of school. So it's really a very different model and we consider it preschool and not daycare. So there have been adjustments with the length of day and student stamina and different things like that. So we will ask Shelley to report on that for you. I think it is in her building and it
Right.
would be helpful for you to hear directly from her.
Good.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you.
Not fourth graders, 4-year-olds.
3 and 4-year-olds.
Oh, they are.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. Technology.
We met tonight and Andrew covered most of it. Just a couple of additions. The website, hopefully all this will be up and running by our next meeting. The demo is great. The access is phenomenal and each of the schools will have their own. Help me out.
Like page,
Yeah.
like you can go to,
You can click
yeah,
on-
it's like a website within the website.
Yeah. So it looks phenomenal. Secondly, some exciting news as far as technology is there's a possibility of an esports team coming up soon. Just waiting for a coach.
What's that?
What is it?
Basically a video game team. So they play games against other schools. It's a new and up and coming social interaction. But as far as, they're still going to do some exercise, but they're going to compete against other teams in video games.
Would that be like a extracurricular? I mean, how would
Yes.
how will we approach it?
It'd be like a,
It's actually recognized as an MIAA sport. I hope I have that right, Andrew. Can jump in, but it's recognized as a sport, and I see he just unclicked himself, so.
It is recognized as a sport. I don't believe it's the MIA though. It's another organization that oversees it. It's the MSAA.
There you go.
Oh, that'd be so. And so, Andrew, they have like rules. There are certain games you would utilize. I mean, this is pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, so they pre-select a handful of games. There's about a dozen on multiple platforms, and you can choose which games you choose to participate in, and they go from either one-on-one or team sports of up to 5-on-5. And then you'll hold practices like you would a normal sports practice. And as Dave was talking about, they're required to do calisthenics beforehand. They're required to jog and warm up and jumping jacks and all that. They don't just play games. They'll play a game against each other. They'll compete, and then the coach's job is to review it with them and get feedback. How can we do better? What did we miss? How can we communicate better? And then they go back and then try to apply that. And the practices run like a regular practice, anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes. And then once a week, they will compete against other teams in Massachusetts. There's a lot of schools around us: Shrewsbury, Wachusett, I believe Quabog has
Northbridge, I think.
Northbridge, yep.
Yeah.
And they'll do that for, I believe, 12 weeks, after which they'll enter into a tournament for the state to have a state champion and then go on to regional and national. So it is very organized.
and it's legitimately scholarships.
Well, and on a lot of college campuses, this has become a big deal because companies who advertise, et cetera, they'll send a blast out saying, okay, on October 30th, we're going to do this at WPI, and you can join in, and they give some little prizes and they give some larger prizes, but a lot of college campuses are doing that, and a lot of college kids are utilizing that. And I think that's great that we would do something like that.
So will they have a coach?
Yeah. Lee's gonna do.
They'll have a coach, they have uniforms. Yes, yep, they have uniforms. There are really fancy shirts for uniforms. They'll have a coach, they'll have uniforms. And they talk a lot about strategy. That's a big part of what they do. And one of the things that we're excited about is we feel like this may open up some after-school opportunities for students who might not be typically involved in what we offer. If we have more students than we have spaces on the team, they're going to have to try out like we do for our other teams. And we're really excited about it. And Nick, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm really curious to hear, your thoughts on that.
Well, actually, I was going to have the question of, I do understand that it's a video game, so they're not like face to face. But would they meet at one location and then play their video games, do whatever exercises, or would they do it like over like a Zoom call or something?
I'm going to let Andrew.
Yes, both
So
practices
they would
and the game.
The practices and the games would be held on school grounds. So we would utilize the existing computer labs that we have to run those. So it would be just like a regular sports practice.
And Andrew, when they compete, do they travel?
They do not, well, they don't travel for the state ones, but for the regional ones, they are actually hosted events where they would go to travel.
Something else for kids, I think, sounds great, but all this is sport. Boy, it stretches my imagination way.
Basketball with West Dallas.
Nick?
And the other good thing about this.
I have a quick question.
Yep.
Oops. I'm assuming that I'm only asking because at Eagle Hill, we looked at like working with Clark University with the esports. So I'm assuming that the computer labs all have the like right computers and speeds? Or are kids going to be expected to have their own gaming systems, like gaming computers?
No, so the computer lab in the C15 digital design and IP room was upgraded recently within the last 2 years and fully exceeds all the expectations we need for this to run. Students are welcome to bring in their own devices if they're more comfortable with it. There are kids that have gaming laptops that they want to use, but we have the equipment on site.
Well, if you ever need to round out a team, I have a couple kids here that would gladly join, and we'll bring them down.
There's a collaboration that could happen. Nicholas?
I think the good thing about this is you're going to get kids who you may not see typically get involved in sports, right? You will have a way to involve kids who they may only go to school, they wake up, go to school, go back home. And for all we know, they could be playing video games all night long.
They are.
But this would be a great way of involving those kids into something. And they would also have the ability to make friends, see new people, make friends with people from different areas.
Machine people interacting with other people. That's good.
That's a good.
Yeah, no, that's, aside from the collaboration, you have to then the strategy piece that the superintendent talked about it and building upon that. And you're right, you said you're just starting to look at this and it was reported out and you're taking a look at it and seeing another opportunity for kids. Okay. Ad hoc school district configuration.
We're just trying to get our times that we can all sort of go at the same time before we set anything up. Superintendent to the buildings and classrooms. See what we got.
Okay.
But
See what we see.
yeah, there's no rush to do it. I mean, there are bigger fish to fry, so to speak.
Okay.
But we're gonna go forward on it.
Okay, good. Unfinished business we took care of. Public comment, do I have anybody? No. School committee concerns?
If nobody else has one. Okay, you go.
This has been bothering me all night long. Nick, if you want to make points with Mrs. Bennett, make sure you leave your booth. When I start over that loophole,
Don't take it.
don't take hold.
Yeah, see,
I'm not going to lie, I did think to myself, I didn't put that little sticker inside, please leave your folder at the table. I would have hunted you down tomorrow.
Yeah. And Lee?
Yeah, so bear with me on this.
Yes, sir.
So this summer, a woman named Dorothy Casterline passed away at the age of 95. What does she have to do with us? She was Japanese-American, born in Hawaii. At the age of 13, she totally lost her hearing. Medical people could not tell her why. She went to Gallaudet College, which is well known for hearing impaired deaf people. She was extremely smart, and so once upon graduation, they hired her as a professor. She found a mentor, and the mentor was a professor there who, his name was Stocco, and he taught a lot there, but he was looking into grammar and syntax of sign language, which at the time, I'll read this the way, was considered nothing more than a gestural derivative of spoken English. He believed there was much more to it, and he wanted to explore it, but he couldn't. He had a handicap. What was his handicap? He could hear. And he didn't learn to sign until he went to Gallaudet to teach at Gallaudet. So he said he knew this was a big impediment to him. So he and Ms. Casterline and then one more student embarked upon changing the paradigm. And so what they did was they got a grant from the National Institute of something. They went around and she literally did thousands of hours, 2,000 to 3,000 hours of interviews. And she interviewed in sign. And so she went out and they interviewed with students, children, men, women, She went down to the south to interview people south of the Mason-Dixon line. She went up north to interview people north of the Mason-Dixon line. And they wrote up a dictionary. And the point of the dictionary, the result was a vast collection of signs which constituted not a variant of English, which was the paradigm of the time, but a language unto itself with its own rules. The dictionary organized the entries by hand forms, not by alphabet that had been totally done under the English language. So they went out to change the paradigm. It didn't change right away, and in fact, hearing impaired people who are in power didn't want to accept this because this was not the way it was done. It took about 20 years for that to change, but that was her and this group's approach to make this a language and not just an offshoot of a bunch of signs on English language. So instead of aardvark and a sign, they did the signs, and it was like rule breaking, obviously, but so simplistic in a way because even if we think as we do. I mean, in the Army, I traveled a lot, so I know the accents of people in like the Delaware, Baltimore area, little Southern accent. I know the Texas, Arkansas accent, deep Southern accent. I have cousins in Rhode Island. I can tell you a Rhode Island accent. Cousins in Maine, I could do the same thing. And who would have thought that then? Their brainstorm was, we go all around the country because there are colloquialistic areas where people sign differently, or they sign in a different manner, or there are cultures, Native Americans in Alaska who may sign differently. And they spend all this time to do that. And I think that when we talk about how we teach at Quabbin sign language, as a language, and in the back of my mind, I've always thought when we talked about this that somebody's going to come up to me sometime and say, you guys teach sign language, signing as a language? I mean, why don't you teach it, part-time at night or something like that? How can that be? But this is an actual language. And I guess in my mind, I never really grasped that. I mean, I kind of took part of the root of like, oh yeah, English, then you equate the English word with the sign. And it's just totally topsy-turvy. And that's what this woman did. So I think of our kids sitting in our classes doing this, the way it should be done, because this woman and a couple of her friends just took on this massive role to change a huge paradigm that was in existence for years and years and years. And so, it just blew my mind that how one person can really do something. I mean, not that I never knew that, but when you read about these people that do that, and to me, that was kind of a neat connection because I think it's great that we teach signing, that we do signing at school.
Dr. Allen?
Just an interesting addition to this. When I was teaching at UMass in the early 1970s, there was a regional center for the deaf there. And in my classes, there was a signer who was there because my class was designated as one of the ones that was appropriate for those kids who were deaf. And it had the signer. And I always talk to signer every time.
Lee, what year was that she started this?
They wrote the dictionary. Let me see. The result was a vast collection of signs, which they argued in, quote, a dictionary of American Sign Language on linguistic principles, 1965.
Do we use it? I remember it well.
That's what everything's predicated on. 100%. We'll bring some students to talk about the program next time.
Superintendent.
I said we'll bring some students at the next school committee. We'll see if we can have students from our sign language program to share with you. I mean, it is one of my favorite classes to visit, to be honest with you, because I'm envious of the skills that they've developed. Nick, do you take sign language or have you? Spanish.
Okay.
Spanish, just scary. Yeah.
History lesson for
Nice.
today.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good. Will we adjourn?
Not yet. Any other school committee concerns? And this, sir, is an opportunity when we talk about, and I'm going to defer to you too. Do you have any concerns?
So the only thing is that at the beginning of the meeting, people were referring to me and Isabel both being seniors. Isabel is actually a junior.
Okay,
I just wanted to make that clear.
a clarification.
And that was it.
For your ranking member, because you stood up for that.
And even though, in this kind of part of the agenda, it's not like a beefing session or whatever. It can be accolades, it can be some concerns, it can be a history. And over in this corner, I know it's not paying attention, but Dr. Allen is always bringing something, poetry or other things alive. So no pressure, but if there are concerns even from the students, it's an opportunity for us to hear. Yes, Walter?
Well, Lee bringing up an obituary reminded me of an obituary that was in the Berry Gazette.
I was thinking of bringing them.
There was a woman who was 102 years old and
109. 109.
her life was,
She didn't eat school lunch.
she didn't eat school.
Yeah. She was 109, Walter.
That's why we have the school lunch regulations. Yeah.
She probably didn't have school lunch back then. She probably had to bring her own.
Anyone else?
Will we adjourn?
Okay, and no executive session. We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Peg, good, and good evening.